I feel like sometimes I start filming and then I start listening to myself talk and I feel like I sound like an idiot, so I end up giving up on whatever my thought process was for whatever I was gonna say. And I don't know, I do that sometimes in real life too, where I start talking and then I realize, I don't know, maybe not just realize that like I'm taking just like this, I'm taking too long to explain something, or I'm just talking, like I'm talking about something that I'm interested in, but the person that I'm talking to isn't, and I just kind of like, you're in it too deep, like you've explained too much about it that you can't just stop talking about it. So I feel like that happens to me sometimes. Self-conscious that nobody cares. You can tell when someone has lost interest in what you're saying, like you can tell it on their face, at least I can anyways. I feel like I've gotten pretty good at figuring that out over the years. I don't know. Noah's on a bike ride. I'm hanging out at home. Figured I did my makeup and everything. It's the weekend. So maybe I should film a follow-up to my surgery and give like an update on how I'm doing. And I'm gonna get a glass of wine so that I can go talk to you guys. Not that I need wine to talk to you, but probably for the week after my surgery, I didn't drink any alcohol. Maybe a week and a half, I didn't drink anything. I had like so many other like weird gut stuff and like just feeling not the greatest anyways, that I was like, you probably don't want to add alcohol to the mix. So I've been like slowly reintroducing like wine and beer. In a while, I feel like I can get back to like my normal eating patterns and everything. I changed a setting on my camera so that I could take some pictures the other day. I think I messed up the settings because I don't know if it's focusing right. I'm gonna take my wine and I think I'm gonna go outside with you guys. Yeah, I don't know if this is focusing correctly, but oh well. This has been my setup outside. Noah and I made these last summer. My mom bought us a kit and we made this one and this one. What I've been doing is just sitting here and just hanging out, and that has been really fun. Do you wanna come in too? Do you wanna come in? Come on. I was going to sit outside. I realized, I don't know if you can see her, but kind of see her a little bit. But my elderly neighbor is outside. Is this the right color? I feel like I think I have to change this. Hold on. The setting I was on, this looks better. Hold on. I've just been fooling around with the camera settings. The one that I was on before was for outside light, like outside sun. Yeah, this looks a lot better to me. This looks more accurate. My neighbor is outside and she's right on the fence lines. I wanted to film outside, but I don't know. Yeah, I didn't want to. Anyways, so it's been a while. What I had wanted to do was I wanted to film updates along the way of how I was doing in recovering from my surgery, but then I've had very little motivation to do anything. Whereas before I had to get my appendix out, Noah and I were spending a lot of time biking, a lot of time working out, a lot of time doing stuff in the yard, like doing all the yard work, doing a lot of things around the house too. Now I feel like if I can get one productive thing done at a day, then I'm good. I guess something that I did talk about a little bit in the other video when I was in the emergency room was that I had appendicitis symptoms earlier this year. I had gone to the urgent care in January, similar symptoms, but they weren't nearly as bad. So in January, I had like that lower right abdominal pain, like nausea, like jabbing pains in my back. I'd had that for maybe 2 days. It was another thing where I was like waiting it out and waiting to see if it would go away, and it didn't. So we ended up going to urgent care. They did an ultrasound. They also did a CT. At that time, my appendix wasn't inflamed. They did see that I had an appendix stone. At that time, they said it was either very early appendicitis or a viral infection that would likely go away. The only thing that gets me about that is that I've had a couple situations where a provider told me that something was viral and would likely go away, and it didn't, which is why I have chronic illness now. So whenever a provider tells me that something is likely viral and will likely go away. I always take it with a grain of salt. That's something that's commonly said when they don't know what your issue is. Like when they can't nail it down, they said, oh, it's likely viral, it'll probably go away. So I have bitterness in my heart for that phrase. So when they told me that, I was like, all right, okay. It was not. So it must have been the very early appendicitis symptoms. It was a lot more mild back in January, but I had that weird abdominal pain for a couple of weeks before it finally went away entirely. They flared back up again with a vengeance. Let me tell you, that is the worst pain that I've ever had in my life. I could not get comfortable when I was trying to go to sleep. I wanted to cry because it was so much pain. At 4 o'clock in the morning before we went to the emergency room, it hurt with every step. And I think at that point, that's when I knew, I was like, something's wrong. Like, I need to get this figured out. Before I got into the emergency room, there were two people kind of like in the inside. There's a room, an area before you actually get to the lobby. So in that room, they were asking me COVID screening questions. When I had left home, I had a little bit of a fever. So that was one of the questions that they ask you, of whether or not you have a fever. I told them that I did, and they gave me a mask to put on. So then I went into the lobby. I got checked in. I went to the emergency room at the perfect time because there was only one other person there in the lobby with me who had checked in right before I did. And I was sitting in the lobby for maybe 5 minutes before someone came and took me back. They took me to the room, started assessing me, started putting in an IV, and was taking blood from me. And then shortly after that, I went and I had a UA, and then shortly after that, I had imaging. All of that was done so quickly, and I was so lucky that I went in when I did, because there wasn't a lot of people there. I got there at 5, and then I left at 2 something. Previous video, I have timestamps for everything that was happening. This was not my first surgery, so luckily I had an understanding of what goes on, like the different processes, what stage of the process I was at. My last surgery I had was when I was a child, but you still remember, like, that's a very formative memory of mine. I remember a lot about it, and a lot of it was very familiar. I've had several medical problems over the years, so I'm very familiar with like getting imaging done, getting CTs, getting ultrasounds. I don't have any problem peeing in a cup, even though the cup that they gave me in the emergency room was small. Like the mouth of it was really small, so that was a little difficult, especially because I was in so much pain. So it was kind of hard to like hunch over and like try and pee in the cup. This is probably TMI, but whatever. I have no problem getting my blood drawn. Like, I always give them the option of which arm they want to do. Like, this arm doesn't have any tattoos on it, but this arm, my armpit, this arm is all tattooed on the crook of the elbow, or on the ditch. Always give them the option. I was like, you can do either one if you want. I used to do phlebotomy as well in the job that I had before this. I know that they don't necessarily do it by sight, they do it by feel. They're feeling where your vein is. So I have no issue with any of that stuff. I have a very high pain tolerance. I will wait until pain is unbearable. I will wait to the 11th hour to like do something about my pain that I'm in. When I was in the emergency room, I hadn't gotten pain medication yet, and the reason why, so they offered it to me once they did the initial like evaluation and knew what was going on with me. They offered me pain medication. Asked them, I was like, is it gonna make me loopy? And they said, might make you like a little relaxed and might make you a little loopy. But they offered that to me before I had spoken to surgery team. I didn't want to take any pain medication that wouldn't allow me to process like what the people were trying to talk to me about and trying to give me options. So I ended up holding off for a while to get pain medication. I waited a little while, and then finally I was like, okay, give me pain medicine. I also went in when they were changing shifts over. So my first set of nurses were different than my second set of nurses. I ended up having multiple sets of nurses and doctors press on my stomach. One of the last people to examine me, I think she may have been part of the surgical team, but she was just pressing on my abdomen to figure out where the pain was localized, and she asked me additional questions and stuff. She was like, does this hurt? Does this hurt? And I was like, yes, that hurts a lot. And she was like, wow, like usually people are like ready to punch me when I'm pushing them on like that appendix spot in the like lower right abdomen. Then I was like, I have a really high pain tolerance, like it hurts, but I'm not gonna punch you or anything. What also was difficult is that my sleep habits had to be different because I'm very used to sleeping on my stomach or my side. A couple of nights after my surgery, I was laying on my back. A couple of days had passed, and then I was like, okay, maybe I'll try sleeping on my side. Now I can fully sleep on like my side / a little bit on my stomach, and it doesn't bother it too much. And exhausted. I felt so tired those first couple of days, and I think it's just because your body is trying to heal from what had happened. But I was sleeping in until like 10, 11 o'clock in the day. Yeah, that's kind of how my like sleeping habits were. The first couple of days was really, you don't realize how much of your abdominal muscles you use getting up and down from sitting, and then getting up and down from laying down was really difficult. I was not in as much pain as I was when I was having the appendicitis symptoms, but it was like a different type of pain, just being like very sore. And how the pain was all right. I was able to switch from the prescription pain medicine to the over-the-counter pain medicine pretty quickly. I think the first 2 or 3 days I was taking both, and I was taking the prescription pain medicine either when I was going to bed or right when I woke up in the morning. I stopped taking any pain medication. I think I was logging it in my phone actually. Let's see. Last dose of pain medication was April the 3rd. So it took me a week to get off pain medication entirely, which I think is pretty good. I was definitely sore the next week. I wanted to be sore and like know what was going on with my body rather than dulling it down with pain medication. Also, I kept having this crampy leg feeling. Just my legs were feeling weird. So when it wasn't going away, I contacted my surgeon and I was like, hey, this is what's going on. I'm a little concerned about this. In the like paperwork that you get when you go home, it was like 10 pages and I read like everything, and it said to be like really careful for like cramping, pain, feelings in your leg because it could be a deep vein thrombosis, so it could be like a clot. So I had to go back to the hospital and get that imaging done. I was not excited about having to go back into the hospital at all, but that's okay. It is what it is. So I went in and got that done. The tech that I had was so nice. I think he was maybe in his 40s or 50s. It was interesting getting his point of view and then just talking to him about how his life has been and how his family is. But then I also realized that I'm an introverted extrovert. I don't know, when I'm in any of those situations, like I did the same thing with the nurses and the MAs and all the techs and the transport people and the doctors and everything when I was in the hospital. I always feel like in those situations, I always want to make friends with the people that are helping me and talking to them about what's going on like in their lives, especially with COVID, just like connecting with them on a personal level and talking to them about how they're doing and then how their family's doing. I very much credit my customer service backgrounds. In high school and college, I worked as a waitress or a server, so I can talk to anyone about anything. I feel like I turn into my customer service version of myself, and I'm very extroverted and very friendly and nice and jokey, making light of my shitty situation. I have to say that everyone that was at the hospital was incredible. Such kind, sympathetic people, but also very real, very much understanding. I didn't want to be there, and it was a bad situation for me to be in, and it was unexpected, and I was overwhelmed. I really appreciated that they could talk to me and made me feel not so alone, because when I was there, I was very alone. Noah couldn't come in with me. They're not allowing any visitors, rightly so. The only people that are getting visitors are pregnant people who are giving birth, people and in end of life care. Obviously, if someone is like an adolescent or a child, they have their guardian there, or if someone has dementia or other like mental issue, that's not the right way to say that, but you know what I mean, then they'll have a guardian there or a like representative there. So those are the only people that can have visitors. It was very nice speaking to everyone that I was working with, or everyone that was working on me there, and they were all very nice. I think I was talking to my surgeon when he came in. He was like, man, I'm sorry, like, I'm sorry this happened to you, I'm sorry you had to come in right now. And I was like, yeah, you know, it kind of sucks. And he was like, yeah, it's not like there's a global pandemic going on or anything. And I laughed. I thought that was really funny. So I think the other thing that was weird was that when I was healing that first week, I had such minimal appetite. Noah had gotten me really good sicko food, so he had gotten me popsicles, Gatorade, saltines, Jello. My mom also stopped by and dropped off some of that stuff too. I had made the chicken noodle soup myself because that was something that I really wanted to do, and I really wanted to accomplish that, but Noah had offered to help me numerous times, and I was like, no, I'm okay, I really want to do this. The only thing I was eating my full portion of was popsicles or Jello. Other than that, I would get myself like a bowl of soup and I would eat maybe half, and I did that throughout the week, so my appetite was really stunted for sure. The hard thing is that before I had gotten my appendix out, I was very active. I was doing a lot of things for my own like mental, physical well-being that once I had gotten my appendix out, I couldn't do anymore. I think now that I'm feeling better, I think it's time to start introducing those workouts in again, which I think will be good. I'm not gonna do like abdominal exercises for a while. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back to that stuff because I think Noah and I have been going on a lot of walks. One of the things that has been really helping in quarantine has been getting endorphins up by working out, and I've now not worked out for several weeks, so I think that's gonna feel really good. Because yeah, the walks are nice, but it's definitely not, you don't get that like good sweat and good workout by just walking around, not for me at least. I still feel a little bit of soreness in my abdomen, and I think it's just, I have surgical glue closing my incisions, and I think I'm healed up. It's just the glue that's holding on for dear life now. So I think that little bit of discomfort that I feel is just that glue, and they said that I could leave that on and wait for it to fall off on its own. So I haven't been able to put on real pants because I feel like it scratches against the surgical glue, and it's just uncomfortable. Like the idea of wearing like any of my jeans does not sound good, so I've just been wearing like sweatpants and stuff. So oh, I forgot to mention, the surgery that they did for me, they did it laparoscopically. So they were able to make 3 small incisions, and those incisions are closed with surgical glue. So I have one going down my belly button, one on the left side of my abdomen, which is probably like that big, and then one on the right side of my abdomen, which is like that big. There was kind of that weird yellow bruising after surgery, and that bruising, I think I had it up to a week after. It finally faded after a while, but it was that weird evolution of a bruise, and it got stuck on like the gross yellow phase for a while, and it was just, yeah, it was gross looking. Probably that first week I did very little of anything. I took a week off of work. My job is like amazing when it comes to that stuff. I've never had an issue with my current manager about like taking vacation time or taking sick time. Like, she very much wants people to like disconnect if they need to. That was like not a concern at all for me. The way that my job works is we have a couple of different data managers on our team. Each data manager has a set of trials that they work on. The only thing when I'm out, means that when I come back, I'll have to play catch up. There's a couple of tasks that are actually urgent in my job, but for the most part, as long as I'm meeting like deadlines set by our contract, then I'm good. So I was off of work for a week, and I literally just laid on the couch, watched a lot of Netflix. Like, we watched the whole Tiger King documentary. We started Ozark. We finished Ozark, not in that first week, but we finished it recently. I've been watching a ton of YouTube. A lot of the YouTubers that I follow, since we're all in this together with the COVID situation, I feel like YouTubers who are established and who have a lot of followers are putting out more content because they know that there's more people available to watch their videos. And then last week, I went back to work. I realized after talking to a coworker, for me, I'm very much I don't know. I don't think I am so much now, but definitely before I would consider myself a workaholic. I was definitely working on evenings and weekends and putting a lot of personal stock in who I am with what I do, taking a lot of pride in what I do, which is not a bad thing at all. But I think with the COVID situation, something for me that has kind of like sparked things for me is that I realized that I'm not only what I do for a job. Like, I'm not only my career, and for me, my career is very important to me. When I think about it now, how much time I was spending on the weekends or the evenings working, when I could have easily taken more weekend trips with Noah, or we could have gone out to eat. We could have been taking Bruce on more walks. Like, all these things that I put my job up here. I realize now that your job is not up here. Your job, it should be at like a lower priority level, which I don't think that's something that I realized before. I don't know. I love what I do. But it's not the only who I am as a person. The whole COVID situation has kind of put things in perspective in that way. So yeah, I went back to work. I ended up not being able to work a full 8-hour day, and I let my boss know, and she said, totally fine, work at your own pace. There was a couple 8-hour days I did last week, but then there was like a 6-hour day, 7-hour day. So I ended up kind of pacing myself a little bit more with my work instead of just going back and going full force with it. Not because my job is like physically taxing in any way, like I'm just working at the computer. It's mentally taxing, and it was also very confusing coming back to work and realizing that everything that had been decided before I left was now different. Because with the COVID situation, we are constantly changing our processes, changing how we do things, changing priorities for things. So that was hard for me to frame my mind around what the new like processes were. Luckily, I work with a lot of really good people. If there's anything that I feel like I'm missing bits and pieces of, I can reach out to them and say like, hey, I don't know what's going on with this. Like, was this, I see this in the medical record. Was this a conversation that you had with a provider? Is there an email about that? Or is that something that was like a verbal conversation? If it is a verbal conversation, can you get that in writing? It's a lot of picking up the pieces and like trying to put it together when you're out of office. The work week went by extremely fast. Noah has been incredible as always. He's always so good about helping me in any aspect of life, and I feel like he is especially like patient and sympathetic when I am going through any sort of like medical situations. I appreciate him so much for being able to be there for me. This whole process would have been 10 times harder, especially with Bruce and Domino. Like, if it was just me on my own and I still had to take care of my dog and my cat and take care of myself, it's more difficult. So I really appreciate him for how he's been able to help me through all of this. I couldn't ask for a better like partner to go through life with, which is like so cheesy, but it's true. I'm very fortunate to have him. But yeah, basically that's my follow-up to my surgery and what happened. Yeah, I've been healing well and hopefully will continue to do good. Just living the quarantine life and trying to make the best out of a very weird situation, and I think we're doing all right. This has been so all over the place, and I'll probably edit it in a way that makes more sense in the timeline of what I'm talking about, because I've been kind of like bouncing bouncing around. Yeah, I think that's just about it. Yeah, I hope this is interesting for anyone who wondering what it's like to heal from an appendix surgery.